I've been at the post office for 15 years. I handle thousands of letters a day, and no one's ever suspected I might sneak a peek. Not because I'm honest, because I don't need to. The names, the addresses, the pokes, they already tell me who's writing to whom, where it's coming from, how often they write. I can tell with a single glance. It's not snooping. It's an occupational hazard. Just like a bartender checks out other people's drinks or a tailor notices their clothes. I read letters. That afternoon, I was handling mail awaiting pickup in the office area. A private P.O. box rinder hadn't picked up their mail for a long time, so I had to return the box number 1742, and the system pulled up the rinder's info. I froze. The renter's name was Robert Baker, my husband. He'd rented that box 2 years ago and never told me. He'd listed his office address. He didn't want me to know. I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. My heart was racing, but my mind stayed calm. I took out all the letters from that box. The return address was the same city, Minneapolis. The recipient said Robert Baker, and the sender was MJ. No full name, just initials. The postmark showed 1 per month, regular as clockwork. I didn't open them. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't need to. I recognized the handwriting on the envelopes. It wasn't a woman's handwriting, it was my husband's. I've seen his writing for 15 years. When he writes M, he adds an extra curve. When he writes J, he leaves off a stroke. This is his own writing. He was writing to himself, sending it to his own private P.O. box, pretending it came from someone named MJ. I stood there clutching those letters, feeling like the world was spinning around me. Not from dizziness, but because 23 years of built-up trust in that moment cracked from its foundation like about to fall. I held it up but didn't straighten it. Just kept it from collapsing right away. My name is Beatrice Baker. I'm 46 and I work at the post office. My husband is Robert, 48, a manager at a logistics company. We've been married 23 years with one daughter, Emily, 20, away at college. Our marriage isn't perfect, but it's not bad either. I thought we'd go on like this until retirement, until we got old, until death. But he writes to himself. That confuses me more than if he were having an affair. If it were an affair, at least I'd know what he's after. Novelty, excitement, younger flesh. Writing to himself, what's he looking for? A past that never existed? A woman who pretends she still cares about him? I didn't confront him right away. 15 years at the post office taught me patience. Letters don't run away, and neither do people. I waited. I put those 7 letters back in box 1742. Then I did something. I looked up MJ's address in the system. It's late, have the right to re-fight Severin Infration. The address was in Minneapolis, a place called Lakeside Rehabilitation Center. I called, said I was a social worker, and wanted to verify a patient's info.
Who are you looking for?
MJ.
There's no patient named MJ. We only have a Miss Johnson, Margaret Johnson.
Does she use a wheelchair?
Yes, she's been here 5 years, paralyzed from a car accident. No one visits her.
Margaret Johnson. I knew that name. Robert mentioned her once, the year we got married, when I asked him who he'd dated.
I had a girlfriend in college, but we broke up.
Why?
It just didn't work out.
And he never brought her up again. 23 years, and I never gave her a second thought, because she was the past. But the past doesn't write letters to itself, the present does. Robert is writing. He's pretending she's still writing to him, pretending she still remembered him, pretending she still loves him. I didn't tell a soul. I took 3 days off and bought a ticket to Minneapolis. Before boarding, I texted Robert, business trip back in 3 days. He replied, okay, stay safe. 3 words. 1 punctuation mark. No, I love you. No, I miss you. I used to think that was normal for a long married couple. Now I think it's a sign of someone who just doesn't care. As the plane took off, I looked at the clouds outside the window and thought about when we first got married. He used to put a note under my pillow saying, I love you. Back then his handwriting was beautiful, each stroke careful and earnest. Then the notes got fewer and finally stopped.
We don't need that anymore.
Believed him. We don't need notes because we have each other. But maybe what he needed wasn't notes, it was someone to write them to him. Since he wasn't getting any, he wrote his own. Was in the suburbs of Minneapolis. The November wind was so cold it stung face. I walked in and a nurse asked who I was looking for. Margaret Johnson. The nurse took me to a room on the 2nd floor, door half open. Inside was a bed, a table, and a wheelchair. In the wheelchair sat a woman, about 50, gray hair, very thin. Her legs were covered with a blanket, but the shape underneath was hollow, not empty, atrophied. Margaret? She turned her head. Her eyes were brown, deep, like 2 wells. She looked at me and didn't ask who I was. Maybe she was used to people coming alone and leaving alone. No one visiting. Who are you? I'm Beatrice. I came from Chicago. I don't know you. But I know you. You're my husband's ex-girlfriend. Her expression didn't change. Not because she didn't care, because there was nothing left for her to care about. 5 years bedridden and paralyzed. Everything that could be cut has been cut.
Robert?
Yes, Robert Baker. Did you ever write to him? She frowned. Why would I write to him? He never came to see me. When I had the accident, I had someone tell him he didn't even send a bouquet of flowers. My heart sank. She was telling the truth. Her eyes told me she wasn't lying. Someone who's been in this place for 5 years with no visitors has no need to lie. You lie to get something. She doesn't want anything anymore. She only wants to die. But she can't even do that because she can't move her hands. The only things she can move are her head and her eyes. You really never wrote to him? I can't even hold a pen. Look. She raised her hand, fingers curled like chicken claws. She tried to straighten them but couldn't. Those aren't hands that can write letters. I looked at her hands and thought of Robert. He sits in his study every day, with his perfectly good hands, careful writing fake letters. He can write, but he chooses to write lies. She can't write, but the truth is all in her heart. I sat by her bed and took out that envelope. Did you send this? She glanced at it.
No, that's not my handwriting, see? My name Margaret Johnson, so the initials are right. I didn't write them.
I know, my husband wrote this. She froze.
He writes to you?
Not to me. To himself. He pretends that you write him a letter every month and send it to his private P.O. box. She was quiet for a long time. The wind outside rattled the branches, making a creaking sound like a door that won't close.
Why would he do that?
I don't know. That's why I came. She raised her head and looked at the sky outside.
You don't hate him?
I hate the lies. Not him. She nodded. Beatrice, you're smarter than I thought. I held her hand. I just don't want to be the one who's lied to for a whole lifetime. Margaret told me their story. They met in college, dated for 2 years. She said Robert is a very insecure person. He always needs someone to tell him I love you, always needs reassurance, always needs to feel important. When she had the accident, they'd been broken up for 3 months. She had a friend tell him he didn't call, just had someone bring a bouquet with a card that said get well soon. She threw those flowers away. He didn't love me. He just needed someone to love him. I looked into her eyes. Did you love him? She gave a sort of smile. Not really a smile, just the corner of her mouth twitching. I did, but that was a long time ago. So long I've forgotten. I held her hand. It was cold, like a stone.
Beatrice, why did you come to see me?
Because I wanted the truth. The truth is, your husband is deceiving you, not for money, but for affection. He needs an ex-girlfriend to prove he's still worth loving. He's not cheating, he's fabricating. I nodded. She was right. I knew she was right, but hearing it from her mouth still hurt. Not a sharp pain, but a dull, heavy one pressing on my chest.
Beatrice, will you come back?
Yes. She heard that, and the corner of her mouth curved a little, the first time she'd smiled in 5 years.
Thank you.
I stayed in Minneapolis for a day. I talked with Margaret, read her the newspaper, helped move her wheelchair. Her room was tiny, with just one window facing the parking lot. Every day she watched those cars, driving in one by one, driving out one by one.
I've lost count of how many cars, probably thousands.
Do you want to move away? Move where? I have no family, no house, no money. This is my home now. I looked at her and thought of myself. I have a home, a husband, a daughter, a job, but my husband writes to himself pretending an ex-girlfriend loves him. Does that count as a home? I walked out of the rehab center. I stood at the door, thought of Robert. He was in Chicago, sitting in his warm office, maybe writing the 8th letter. The 8th letter, to write so earnestly, like he's waiting for a reply that will never come. Back in Chicago, I didn't go straight home. I drove around the city for a long time. I passed the cafe where we had our first date. It's closed now, turned into a phone store. I passed the neighborhood where we bought our first house. The old oak tree has been in Whistler, but the Howells' stories added. 23 years. A lot has changed. But some things haven't. He's still that man who needs to be reassured, and I'm still that wife who doesn't know how to talk. I got home close to midnight. Robert is sitting on the sofa in the living room. He heard me come in and stood up.
You're back. How was Minneapolis?
Fine. Got my business done.
Did you eat?
Yeah. I didn't look at him. I went straight to the bedroom. He followed and stood in the doorway.
Beatrice, are you okay?
I'm fine, just tired. He stood there, not leaving. I knew he wanted to say something, but he didn't know how. He's always been like this. Wants to speak but can't, so he chose to write to someone who doesn't exist. Good night.
Good night.
He turned off the light. The bedroom was dark, just a little light from the street lamp outside. I lay in bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. He lay beside me, his back to me. There was a gap between us, not the width of the bed, but the width of our hearts. That wall, I saw it, and he saw it too. No one made a move to tear it down. The next day, I went to the post office, regular work, sorting letters, canceling stamps, logging them in. Same as before. But something was different. I went to the dead letter vault. It's a room in the basement, piled with undeliverable mail, wrong addresses, deceased recipients, no such person. Every letter is an unfinished story. I stayed there a long time, flipping through those letters. One was from a daughter to her mother, returned, no such person. One was from a husband to his wife, returned, wrong address. One was from a child to Santa Claus, returned, recipient doesn't exist. I looked at those letters and thought of Robert. The letters he wrote should be here too, because the recipient doesn't exist. There's no woman named MJ waiting for him. He's waiting for a ghost he created himself. I ran my finger over those turnvelopes, cold paper, like dead skin. Dead letters don't lie, they're just lost. I didn't expose him. Not because I was afraid, but because I wanted to watch. Wanted to see how far this lie would go. Wanted to see when he would stop it himself. The 8th letter arrived. The postmark was Minneapolis, the sender MJ, the recipient P.O. Box 1742. I picked it up off the sorting line and held it in my palm. The envelope was very light, probably just one sheet of paper. What did he write? Maybe I miss you, or I haven't been feeling well lately, or do you remember our first kiss? He remembers. He remembers everything. But what he remembers isn't Margaret, it's the Margaret he made up. I put the letter back on the conveyor and let it go through normal delivery. That evening, Robert came home an hour later than usual. When he walked in, he was holding a bottle of red wine. The year on the label was 1999, the year we got married. What's the occasion?
Nothing. Just felt like a drink.
He opened it, poured himself a glass, and poured one for me too. I took it but didn't drink.
BLC, have you ever thought about where we'd be right now if we hadn't married back then?
Where do you want to be? He didn't answer. He drank that glass, then poured another. He finished the whole bottle by himself. I left my glass untouched by the sink. The wine went down the drain, gurgle, and gone. The 9th letter, the 10th, the 11th, one per month, regular as clockwork. I looked at every single one, not by opening them, but using the post office's scanner to see the outline of the paper side. I know the tech, we use it to check packages for danger inside, but for reading the outline of a letter, it works fine. On the screen, the folds of the paper were as clear as the lines on a palm. The 9th letter, he wrote, I dreamed we were back in college, you saving seats in library, me bringing coffee. The 10th, the nurse says I need to do rehab exercises, but at going, I wish you were here. The 11th, why don't you come see me? Is it because of your wife?
He looks at the blank space and answers himself. He makes up a story, then asks himself a question, then gives his own answer. This isn't a letter. It's a script. He's performing a one-man show. The only audience is himself, but he doesn't know that the real audience is me.
I sat at the sorting table, reading those letters one by one. Every one of them hurt. Not because he was lying to me, but because he had himself so thoroughly fooled. He believed those letters were real. He believed Margaret still cared about him. He believed there was still someone in this world who remembered him. But that person wasn't Margaret. It was himself. I started doing something. I used the post office's internal dead letter system to mark those 7 old letters as no such person. Not truly no such person, just a virtual return in the system. I set up a loop. Sender Lakeside Rehab, Lake Civrian Rehabnos, recipient box 1742. But the recipient address was my husband's office. One day he'd get a returned letter, sender Margaret Johnson, stamped no such address. He'd be confused because he'd clearly received the first 7. Why was the 8th returned? He'd go check. He wouldn't find anything, because I did it in the system. He wanted a perfect story. I gave him one with a crack in it. The crack would grow until he had to face it. The person he was writing to doesn't exist. I wasn't getting revenge. I was making him see the truth. He made up a woman, but he couldn't make up her address because the real Margaret didn't want to write. I checked that return notice 3 times, made sure everything was correct, then hit confirm. The words popped up on the screen, processing successful. My hand hovered over the keyboard, my fingernails white. This was a bet I made with betting whether he still had the ability to see the truth. Robert did come to see me, not at home, but at the post office. He stood at the counter in his work suit, his hair perfectly combed, but his hands were shaking. He put the returned letter on the counter and looked at me.
Beatrice, what's going on with this letter?
I glanced at the envelope, pretending I didn't know. A returned letter, probably a wrong address. Do you know the sender?
Yes, an old friend. She lives at that rehab center. The address should be correct.
Then maybe it's a system glitch. Let me check for you. I typed a few keys on the virtual return record. Look, the system says recipient address does not exist. Maybe she moved. Do you want to call and ask?
Robert's face went a little pale. He didn't call because he didn't know anyone at the rehab center. When he wrote those letters, he used an address he found online. He never verified it. He didn't want to verify because he didn't want to know the truth.
The truth was, no one was writing to him.
Never mind. Maybe she really did move.
He put the letter back in his pocket and turned to leave. I sat behind the counter watching his back. His shoulders slumped like a deflated balloon. I won the first round. But I wasn't happy. Because I was finally realizing that the person he'd been inventing for 2 years might never have existed at all. That night, Robert didn't come home. He stayed at the office. He texted me, working late, not coming home. I replied, okay. Just okay. No, take care. No, come back soon. After 23 years, for the first time, I felt like I didn't have to say polite things either. Polite words are for strangers. He wasn't a stranger. He was a liar. Liars don't need politeness. I sat alone in the living room, the TV on but unwatched. The streetlights came on outside, shining on the empty street. I thought of Margaret. Every day she sits like that too. Alone, looking out the window. The difference is she has no one to wait for. I don't want to wait. But what am I waiting for? For him to come home? For an apology? For him to admit he wrote those letters? I don't know. Maybe I'm waiting for myself to decide whether to keep going. At 2 a.m., the door opened. He came back, smelling of alcohol. He didn't turn on the lights, fumbling his way to the bedroom. I heard him undressing, clothes dropping on the floor. Then the bed sagged. He lay on his side, his back to me. Neither of us spoke. Silence was like a wall, standing between us in the middle of the bed. I could hear his breathing, quick, unsteady. What was he afraid of? That I'd expose him, or that his own fantasy would finally shatter? The next morning, I made a big breakfast. Eggs, bacon, toast, coffee. He sat at the table, looking at the food, not touching it. Sunlight came through the window and fell on his hand. Res on the table, slightly curled like holding an invisible pen.
Beatrice, do you know something?
Know what?
Know about those letters. Know about Margaret.
I put down the cup and looked at him. There was something in his eyes. Fear. The fear of, are you about to expose me? I stared at him for a long time until his face started to turn red. Robert, do you know that you wrote those letters yourself? He opened his mouth, but no words came out. His lips were trembling. Do you know that Margaret can't write letters? She's paralyzed. She can't even hold a pen. When you wrote those letters, did you ever think about what the real her is like? His eyes turned red.
You went to see her?
I did. She doesn't hate you. She just doesn't need you anymore. He lowered his head and covered his face with his hands. His shoulders shook. He was crying silently. I watched him, didn't hand him a tissue, didn't comfort him. Because who were those tears for? For Margaret? For himself? Or for those fake letters?
Beatrice, I'm sorry.
You don't need to say sorry. You just need to tell me. Do you still want to continue? He lifted his head, eyes red, nose red too. He didn't look like a 48-year-old man. He looked like a kid who'd done something wrong.
I don't know.
You don't know if you want to continue our marriage?
We haven't really talked in a long time. You go to work, I go to work. You cook dinner, I watch TV. We're like two roommates sharing an apartment.
So that's why you write letters?
Maybe. I need someone to listen to me.
I'm listening.
No, you're not. You're always busy. Busy with work, busy cooking, busy cleaning the house. When I try to talk to you, you just say, uh-huh, and move on. You don't know how lonely I am.
I froze. He was right. I am busy. Busy living, busy getting through the days, busy not thinking about the unhappy things. But being busy isn't an excuse. Being busy is an escape. I've been escaping for 23 years. He escapes by writing letters. I escape by staying silent. We're both running, just in different directions. Robert, then let's start over. No letters, no escaping, just talk.
You're willing to do that?
I am. But there's one condition.
What condition?
You burn those letters. Not hide them, not lock them away, burn them.
That night, we made a fire in the backyard. He took the letters out of his study and put them into the fire, one by one. The flames licked the paper, the handwriting twisting, blackening, vanishing in the fire. He squatted by the fire pit, watching the letters turn to ash, dot the wind blue, lifting the ashes into the night sky like black snowflakes.
When the last letter was gone, he stood up and looked at me.
Beatrice, do you know what I regret the most?
What?
Not writing those letters. It's that I didn't talk to you sooner.
I walked over and stood beside him. He looked at the ashes, the firelight reflected in his eyes.
Do we still have time?
Yes. As long as you still want to talk, I'll still listen. He hugged me. That was the first time in 20 years that he hugged me on a day that wasn't a birthday, an anniversary, or any special occasion. His arms were tight, like he was afraid I'd run away. I leaned against his shoulder and smelled him. Cologne, the smell of smoke from the fire, and a little sweat. I used to think that was just a man's smell. Now I think it was the smell of loneliness. The loneliness burned away, and what was left was just a person. We didn't go to a marriage counselor. We chose a different way. Writing letters. Not to box 1742, but under each other's pillows.
Beatrice, the steak you made today was a little tough, but I ate it all anyway because you made it.
We're both getting old. These letters were short, very real. No fancy sentences, no flourishes. Just two people writing what they wanted to say on paper and putting it where the other person sleeps. Next morning, wake up, lift the pillow, see the letter, read it, smile, and start a new day. Sometimes I look at his handwriting, each stroke still with that extra curve, that missing stroke. But I don't see those curves and strokes as lies anymore. It's just him, a man whose handwriting isn't pretty but who's willing to write. Are you in love or something lately? Not love. We've made up. Making up is harder than falling in love. Yes. Making up takes courage, admitting you were wrong, and so was the other person, but still being willing to try. Harder than starting over. Starting over means wiping the slate clean. Making up means walking forward with scars. Every step hurts, but every step you know why you're taking it. The time post office opened. Robert quit his logistics job, rented a small storefront on the west side, and put up a sign, "Write a letter to your future self." Not many people came on opening day. The first one through the door was an old lady. She was around 80, using a cane, slowly in, looking around the shop for a long time. "Young man, is this a post office?"
Yes, you can write a letter to your future self. 1 year from now, 5 years, 10 years, we'll keep and mail it when the time comes.
Then I'll write one to myself 10 years from now. I'll be 90 then. Don't know if I'll still be around. She sat at the table, picked up a pen, and wrote for a long time. When she finished, she put the letter in an envelope, stuck on a stamp, and dropped it into the red mailbox in the store.
What did you write?
I wrote, "Thank you for still being alive." Robert watched her walk out the door, his eyes turning red. That night, he told me about it.
Beatrice, I didn't open the shop to do business. I opened it so the words we can't say out loud have somewhere to go.
I know. That's what I think too. The Time post office slowly got regulars. There was a middle-aged man who came on the first of every month to write a letter to his late wife. He did it for a year. On the first day of the second year, he came and wrote an even shorter letter. "I'm good today." Robert put that letter in the most visible spot.
That's courage.
There was a young woman who came every Friday to write a letter to her future child.
"I don't know who your father is, but I'll wait for you to be born, wait for you to grow up when you were young."
She's not writing a letter, she's creating hope.
Hope is a kind of letter, too. The recipient is the future. And there was a veteran who came a last day of every month to write a letter to his fallen comrade in the jungles of Yidn't Leave. Margaret passed away. When the nurse called me, I was wrapping a bouquet, pink roses. I was going to send it to her to tell her spring is here. But she didn't make it to spring. She died in winter, on the coldest day. Very few people came. I flew to Minneapolis and went to her funeral.
Margaret Johnson, never married, no children. She loved flowers most of all.
I stood by the grave and placed the pink roses on it. The wind was strong, blowing a few petals off into snow like drops of blood. I didn't cry, because Margaret didn't need tears. She needed someone to remember her. I crouched down and gathered the petals back one by one. "Margaret, do you remember me? I'm Beatrice, the woman from Chicago. You said I was your family. You are my family." Robert didn't come.
I can't go. If I go, I'll cry, not for her, but for myself.
I didn't push him. Some regrets you have to digest alone. Back from Minneapolis, I went to the Time post office. Robert was sealing a letter addressed to his mother at the nursing home where she used to live. She'd been gone 10 years. He writes her a letter every year.
I wrote, Mom, I know how to write letters now. Not fake ones, real ones.
She knows.
How do you know?
Because she's a mom. Moms know everything. He lowered his head and kept sealing the letter. I stood beside him, watching his hands. Those hands had written fake letters and real letters, written lies to Margaret and longing to his mother. The same hands. It wasn't the hands that were the problem, it was the heart. When the heart is right, the hands follow.
On the day I die, you mail it for me.
Okay. He looked at me and smiled. The first smile without a weight on it he'd had in a long time. Received a special letter. The sender was an 8-year-old boy, the recipient, me in 20 years. Robert put that letter in the safe, marked specially, to be mailed in 2045.
This letter, it showed me what hope is.
Hope isn't something you wait for. It's something you write down.
You're getting more and more like a philosopher.
I said not a philosopher, a mail carrier. When you've seen as many letters as I have, you know what's real.
That boy came with his mother. Watching her stood her son, write so earnestly, secretly wipe away tears.
But while he was writing the letter, he smiled. He was talking to himself who still believed everything would be okay. Lily came back from college. She saw the Time post office. She pulled me inside and saw Robert behind the counter, sealing a letter.
Dad, what are you doing?
Sending a letter for your grandpa.
He took out a letters to his father's name at the cemetery.
Grandpa wrote to Grandma?
Yes. He wrote for a whole year, a little bit every day. The day he finished, he cried all night. He said, I owe her in this lifetime.
Dad, you finally know how to talk.
Your mom taught me.
Mom, what did you do?
I just didn't give up on him.
It's not that you didn't give up on him. You taught him how to talk.
I thought about it. Maybe she was right. I didn't just not give up on him. I didn't give up on talking. I talked for 23 years, and finally he heard me. The post office was laying people off. I was in the first batch to get notice. 15 years, and just like that, cut.
Beatrice, if you leave, who's going to help me sort the mail?
You will. Your ears are better than mine.
It's not about ears, it's about heart. You sort with your heart. I can't.
Yes, you can. Because you care too. Jen nodded. She would. Because she cares too. I packed up my toolbox, that stamping handle, the one I'd used for 15 years. It's rubber grip. I put it on it to the polish smooth. A young guy who'd only been there 3 months.
Sister, I can't take that. You used it. It's too heavy.
Every lever's ever you stamp it postmark. Not too hard. This letter wasn't just rushed through.
I will.
Walked out the post office door. I looked back at that gray building, the blue mailbox at the entrance, just the same as always. I worked here for 15 years. Sorting letters every day, reading names and addresses on envelopes. Now, I'm no longer a postal employee, but I'm still Beatrix, still the one who reads letters. The first day of being employed, I slept till I woke up naturally. Sunlight streamed through the window and fell on the quilt. Robert had already left for the night fund. I looked at that note and smiled. No extra curve, no missing stroke. I folded it and put it under my pillow with those old letters. After breakfast, I went to the Time post office. Robert was sorting letters. Those letters to the future needed to be filed by year. I sat down next to him and helped sort.
If you come work here, I can't pay you.
No pay needed. Just feed me.
I will, for a lifetime.
We sat a pile of letters between us. I picked up one and looked at the delivery year, 2040. The sender was a woman in her 50s writing to herself 65. I put down the letter and thought of myself. When I'm 65, where will I be? Maybe still in this shop, sorting letters with Robert, maybe alone. But either way, I'll have letters. Not receiving, writing. To my future self, to people from the past, to all the things I couldn't say out loud. The Time post office received a special letter. The sender was a 10-year-old girl, the recipient her mother. Her mother was in prison. Robert held the letter, not sure what to do. Send it to the prison? That's possible. But the address was incomplete.
What should I do?
I'll handle it. I used my old contacts at the post office to find the prison address and her mother's inmate number. I addressed the envelope, put on a stamp, and dropped it in the mailbox. That letter was sent. 2 weeks later, the girl's mother wrote back. The day the girl got the letter, she ran to the Time post office and hugged Robert, crying.
Your mom will come back.
How do you know?
Because she's a mom. Moms don't lie to their kids.
I'll wait for her.
I started organizing those letters to the future, not snooping, just cataloging. Year, sender, recipient, one folder per year kept in the safe. The 2040 folder was already thick. 2050s was still thin. 2060 had only a few. The sender was a 20-year-old boy, the recipient me at 60. He wrote, "Are you still alive? If you are, go to Iceland." I looked at that letter and smiled. Will he, at 60, remember this letter? Maybe not. But when he gets it, he'll remember himself at 20, that poor but hopeful kid. I gently rubbed the edge of the envelope, put it in the 2060, few other letters in there, each one thin but holding a young person's entire future. Robert's health started to act up. He began getting frequent headaches, sometimes so bad he couldn't stand up straight. I went with him to the hospital for tests.
It's migraines. Too much stress. Need rest. I don't have any stress. Your hands shake when you write letters. If that's not stress, what is?
I was stunned. His hands shake when he writes? I'd never noticed.
Because I was always reading the content of the letters, not looking at his hands.
On the way home, he was driving and I was in the passenger seat.
Robert, do your hands shake when you write?
Sometimes.
Why?
Because I'm afraid of making mistakes. Afraid of writing badly. Afraid you'll notice.
Notice what?
Notice that I'm still afraid.
His fingers on the steering wheel were white. I reached over and covered his hand. His hand was cold, nubby at the joints.
Afraid of what?
Afraid you'll read my letters and think I'm not a good writer. Afraid you'll think I'm not good enough.
Do you think you're good enough now?
Not yet, but I'm trying.
Then that's enough. Trying is enough. He took a few days off, resting at home, watching TV, sleeping, not talking. I sat next to him, also not talking. But we both knew it wasn't a cold war, it was exhaustion. That kind of tiredness, it's your heart being tired. When you've lied to yourself for 2 years and then try to straighten it out, you can't do it in one go. You have to turn it back little by little. On the 4th day, he spoke.
Beatrice, I want to write a letter, not to my future self, to you, right now.
He picked up a pen. He picked up a pen very slowly, each character carefully. When he finished, he didn't put it under my pillow, he handed it to me directly.
The letter said, I was wrong. Wrong for treating lies as truth. Thank you for not leaving. I'll learn. Even if I say it badly, I'll say it.
You don't need to learn. You're already doing it.
How come I never noticed before how good you are at talking?
Because before you weren't listening. The Time post office moved to a new location, not the old neighborhood, downtown. The store was bigger, and so was the staff. But we still insisted on one thing. Every letter had to be sealed by hand. No machine, no glue. Letters have warmth, just humans' hands. Because Hosie asked why.
Because hands remember, machines don't.
Sintan, we were covered with cards. What for the future? For the present. People who came in getting their letters would write a sentence on a card and hook it, meaning Summer wrote, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Summer wrote, thank you for with me. Robert looked at those cards every day.
These are the real letters. Not made up, not fake. Real.
The ones you used to write were real too, just addressed to the wrong person.
You're right. They should have been addressed to you.
Lily got married. Her husband is a mail carrier, not from our post office, from a different district. Lily said, I like him because he writes letters, not text, actual letters. At the wedding, Robert gave Lily a letter. Lily opened it, read a few lines, and started crying.
Dad, I never hated you. I was just afraid you weren't happy.
I'm happy now because I have you and your mom.
I stood nearby, watching father and daughter. Sunlight came through the church windows and fell on them like a halo. I thought of my mother. She'd been gone 20 years. If she were here, Beatrice, you did the right thing. Not forgiveness, letting go. Not forgetting, accepting.
I am.
He took Lily's hand, walked down the aisle, and placed it in the groom's hand. In that moment, I cried, not from sadness, but from proud. He'd finally learned how to hold someone's hand. The Time post office had been open for a year. We'd received over 1,000 letters. The farthest one was from that 8-year-old boy to me in 20 years. Robert put that letter in the deepest part of the safe and locked it.
This letter is our shop's treasure.
Treasure? It's just a letter.
No, it's hope.
He was right. It was hope. An 8-year-old child believing that in 20 years he would read this letter, believing his future self was still alive. Being alive, that's hope. Did you write letters when you were a kid?
I did, to myself 10 years later, but the letter got lost.
What did you write?
I wrote, "Don't be scared."
Then let me say to you now what the you from 10 years ago wrote. Don't be scared. The post office layoff storm had passed. Tourists, your spot has been filled. That young guy is doing a good job. That's good. Aren't you coming back? No, I have a new job. What job? Writing letters, helping people write letters. You used to deliver letters, now you write them. You changed career, not a career change, an upgrade. Before, I delivered other people's words. Now I write my own. Beatrice, you've changed. Not changed, I found it. Found what? Found how to speak. On the other end of the line, she cried. I want to find it too. You will. Start by writing me a letter. Fausti. The next day, I got a letter from Jen. The letter had just one sentence, saying thank you for not leaving me behind.